Welcome to Creature Guide Live Daily News. For those of you that don't know, my name is Ethan. We are both strumbling on YouTube, Kick, and Rumble.
It's nice to know we're strumbling.
Jeez, is that what I said? Sorry. I think I have a mammoth in my mouth. Um, getting at. Okay, so today we're going to be going over a couple of articles regarding woolly mammoths as well as giant ground sloths. And as well, we're going to be mixing in moose and gray wolves, as well as a little bit about their evolution. So, let's get into from sciencenews.org. We've been doing so many sci news articles lately, completely different newspaper. So it seems to be a pretty recent discovery. The last woolly mammoths offer new clues to why the species went extinct. An analysis of 21 mammoth genomes suggests that inbreeding wasn't actually the cause of the behemoth's demise. Um, well, partially what one of the main um, causes or theories to their extinction, at least when it comes to the small islands that the last populations of the pygmy mammoths were surviving on, was due to the water or all of their water resources or um, sources ended up mixing with the water from the ocean due to the rising sea levels. And the mammoths, at least over on St. Paul's Island, Alaska, which is very far off the coast of Western Alaska, approaching the Russian coastal border, or basically the coastal border with Asia. Um, Virtually all of their freshwater resources ended up being too high in salt content. What was another thing? But when it came to on land or on the main land masses, so in different areas of North America, Asia, and Europe, it seemed to be not just a matter of inbreeding, but also a massive amount of ecological change occurring at the end of the Pleistocene or the Ice Age. So around 12,000 years ago, and probably if you venture even further back, the mammoths, as well as other species of megafauna like the large you can almost say Irish fallow deer, and I state that even though it's referred to as the Irish elk. Its closest relative today is the fallow deer, being Megaloceros, as well as the cave lions, the cave bears, the giant horses of the Pleistocene. And technically, I think many people tend to confuse certain breeds of today's horses being the largest that have ever existed. And the truth is, there were actually a couple of species that were immense compared to like the largest Clydesdales of today, which is a breed of horse. Who else? I mean, also, I mean, a wide variety of species were also going extinct in different areas of Africa, South America, and Australia. It seems to be less of a case over in Antarctica. Also, even in the high Arctic, depending on what animals we're referring to, they also seem to live on past the ice age. But it would differ, considering you would have different mammoth populations over in the Arctic, as well as different cave lion populations, bison, completely distinct from today's species of Eurasian and American bison. So let's continue. Oh, so yeah, the ecological change, and as well, I mean, definitely you're having fewer resources. You're also going to have it where reproduction is going to be much more challenging, and simply with that, any females that are able to go through gestation, what's the likeliness of their calf making it? And even if their calf does make it to birth, um, what's the likeliness of that calf able to create a very healthy physique and continue that? Since also what happened at the end of the ice age was vast expanses of boreal forest were occurring in different areas of what was once grassland or the mammoth steppe. Wrong grammar. Okay, so what was another thing? Oh, also what was occurring was a massive expanse of wet, mossy tundra, which is good for caribou and in many cases even polar bears or grizzly bears of today. In some cases, even moose. But it's horrible for the woolly mammoth and certain other species. So 4,000 years ago, on an island off the coast of what is now Siberia, the world's last woolly mammoth took its final breath. Um, well, if we're talking about this specific island, then that could be the possibility, but um, it was a little less than 4,000 years ago. In fact, I believe it was somewhere around 34 to 3,600 years ago that the last woolly mammoths went extinct during the Bronze Age. So living on that island isolated from other mammoths could have led to fatal levels of inbreeding and catastrophic population drops, leading to extinction, scientists have said. A new study confirms that the woolly mammoth population on Wrangel Island was inbred, but suggests they were not doomed to die. Well, there have been a variety of different instances with other mammals where despite different inbreeding situations, actually, I mean, there's several today, they still manage to thrive to a major extent. I mean, you can see it. See, I'm trying to think of animals that actually have a viable population and not off of animals like the Sumatran rhino or the Javan rhino. Let's see, which Javan rhino, I believe there's only somewhere between 60 to a little over 80 individuals over on the island of Java in Indonesia. And then the Sumatran rhino is even less, somewhere between like 40 to 65 individuals. The interesting thing is the Sumatran rhino happens to have less inbreeding um, or inbred genetics compared to the Javan rhino. Now, let's see. You could stick cheetahs into this. They've been heavily inbred for over 11,000 years, or at least since the Ice Age. But who else? Actually, there's quite a technically, there's different wolf populations across different parts of Europe, different areas of Asia. Can't think of North America, possibly within the continental United States, so south of Canada and Alaska. But that's due to fairly recent genetic bottlenecks. So, meaning there were very few left of that specific population. And so all the ones that do exist, unfortunately, are quite inbred in certain areas. But I'm trying to think of certain animals have been inbred for thousands of years besides cheetahs. It's just not really hitting me at the moment. Actually, I believe there were certain birds. I don't know the specific species. Let's keep going. So, the mammoth population gradually lost harmful genetic mutations that would affect survival, indicating that some other random event, such as disease or environmental changes, sealed the mammoth's fate. Researchers report June 27th in Cell. Well, that's quite mysterious. What would do that? This paper does a remarkable job, says Joshua Miller, a paleontologist at the University of Cincinnati who was not involved in the study. The research, Miller says, both offers valuable insight into the end of the Wrangel Island mammoths and suggests how genetics should be monitored in modern endangered animal conservation efforts. Hold on a second. Well, I mean, uh, it's a bit hard to compare modern animal population issues with back in the Pleistocene epoch, or in this case, the Bronze Age. Until around 10,000 years ago, the woolly mammoths lived on mainland Siberia, but rising global sea levels left the population stranded on um, disparate islands, potentially limiting genetic mixing among the mammoths. Yeah, but what would get rid of that harmful genetic mutation that supposedly they had? That would, in my opinion, or in theory, just simply make it more severe. Genetic variation is the general toolbox that animals have in order to adapt to changes in the environment, says study co author Love Dallin, an evolutionary geneticist at the Center for Paleogenetics in Stockholm, Sweden. Previous research on mammoth extinction theorized that population isolation increased the level of inbreeding, decreased genetic variation, and made the mammoths more vulnerable to harmful genetic mutations, diseases, and death. Yeah, I mean, that's what many would expect. But Dallin and colleagues reject this idea and have for more than a decade. Okay, I am intrigued. Over the years, the researchers have collected woolly mammoth bone shards and tusks and teeth in Siberia, and from them extracted woolly mammoth genomes. In the study, the team analyzed 21 genomes, including 8 that had already been previously published. The genome covered the last 50,000 years of woolly mammoth's existence, including when the animals became isolated on Wrangel Island. Oh, yeah, there's a tusk. I think it's a tusk. Using computer modeling software, the team compared the woolly mammoth genomes with the genomes of elephants, the closest modern day relation, and humans to predict how harmful genetic mutations were to the mammoth and whether they were purged from the population over time. I'm guessing that they're comparing this with Asian elephants. It's very possible. I mean, they could be comparing them with African forest elephants as well as African bush elephants, but Asian elephants are much more closely related. The genus Elephas is the closest living relative to the Mammothus genus, which is the genus that the woolly mammoth belongs to, as well as the Columbian mammoth, the steppe mammoth. Let's see.
How many mammoths are there?
There are not many. There's a little over 12 different species have been discovered. And that's also including the pygmy mammoths, which might increase it somewhere between 12 to 15 species, but not as many as people would expect, though many are also only familiar with the woolly mammoth. So, it's also important to remember that different species of mammoths back in the Pleistocene, originally, they were not really meant for extreme cold weather. And there are also these different cold and warm scenarios occurring throughout the Pleistocene epoch or the Ice Age. But you have it where mammoths like the steppe mammoth originally were more meant for kind of a mild type climate. And it wasn't until much later into the Pleistocene, so the last couple hundred, 2 to 300,000 years, that they started evolving mutations specifically adapted for colder weather and more of a woolly mammoth sort of, at least fur structure, possibly fat content too. The analysis showed that though Wrangel Island's mammoth population started with at most 8 individuals. Whoa, okay, so that's a very that's a massive bottleneck. It jumped to about 200 to 300 individuals and stayed level until the mammoths went extinct. The most harmful genetic mutations in the mammoth population also became less frequent over time, likely because animals with those mutations couldn't or didn't reproduce, the researchers say. Minor genetic mutations likely would not have caused the Wrangel Island mammoths to die out completely. Hmm. So, whatever specific mutation that they contained in this specific population over on Wrangel Island, it seems to not really have had too much of a negative effect on them, considering they increased by, um, what I guess, multiply it by over 30 times. And yeah, they did, I don't know, would 30 be a little over us? No, it's probably about right. It is really good evidence against the meltdown model, but it doesn't completely exclude that model, says Vincent Lunk, an evolutionary biologist at the University at Buffalo in New York. Though the island isolation and drop in genetic variation might not have been the final nail in the mammoth coffin, even the accumulation of minor genetic mutations could have made the woolly mammoths more vulnerable to other environmental changes like disease, climate shifts, and the arrival of humans. Yeah, many times humans are put into the context. I mean, yes, humans are well, okay, at this point you were um yeah, around the time that true humans had evolved, but I was thinking back over 40,000 years ago with Neanderthals, Denisovans, sapiens. But I'd say definitely disease, climate shifts were probably the main things. As what when it comes to these genetic bottlenecks, I would have assumed that specifically as well. And apparently, this is showing quite the opposite. Um, at least coming from these studies over in New York and Sweden. Due to challenges obtaining high quality DNA, the team was not able to analyze the genetic condition of the Wrangel Island population during their final 300 years, or roughly 5 generations, says study co author Marianne de Husk, also of the Center for Paleogenetics. In the future, with rapidly improving sequencing technologies, researchers are looking to complete their analysis of the Wrangel Island mammoth's genetic trajectory. As scientists continue to study the woolly mammoth, the animal's final moments remain a mystery. Maybe they were just unlucky. If some disaster had not struck Wrangel Island, perhaps we would have had mammoths walking around still today. That is actually a question even I've had when it comes to environmental changes because Wrangel Island, and I know I was mentioning that earlier, making out like Um, the reason why the mammoths over on Wrangel Island disappeared was because of environmental change. But if you look at the overall island, it really hasn't changed since the Ice Age very much. I mean, it has almost a very mammoth step like um, just overall ecology to it. Now, today, you really just have polar bears that tend to hang out on different areas of the island as well as certain walrus populations. But you could have had it where back then, over 4,000 years ago, polar bears and woolly mammoths coexisting side by side. And depending on how large the woolly mammoths were over here, it's possible that the polar bears, for the most part, really just didn't hunt them. But where was I trying to get with that? Oh, yeah, I think it's a huge mystery as to why all of a sudden they just disappeared. It's not mentioning that the water, or there was a major water issue. Yeah, that's the end of the article. It's it's just simply unknown. Almost freaky. It's the St. Paul's Island incident that seems to be um, more of a clear sort of extinction cause, but this is mysterious. Okay, let's head over to, I guess, check out what's going on with the ground sloths or the mammoths first. You know what? Let's go over to ground sloths, and we'll go back to mammoths a little later. Oh yeah, here's one of the Siberian baby mammoth mummies. I believe this is only supposed to be like 1 to 3 month old woolly mammoth youngster. So this is just very well intact. Where are you? Oh, by the way, when it comes to gray wolves have actually been around for a much longer period of time than um, many people tend to associate them with. I think because many tend to associate with the modern day animals such as wolves, moose, or at least those being or existing in the northern hemisphere, only being around since the very end of the ice age or at least afterwards. So right between 9 to 10,000 years ago. And when it comes to the most recent version of the gray wolf, they have been around for somewhere between 50,000 to 120,000 years. It's still a very brief um, estimate as to exactly when these specific types of genetics started evolving with their modern day wolves. But it seems to be at the end of the Ice Age because the Pleistocene started over 2.2 million years ago. You also would have had gray wolves, or specifically Canis lupus, coexisting with other species of gray wolves, especially not gray wolves, wolves in general, such as Inosion, and they would have also coexisted with different species of big cats. Like if you're referring to wolf populations over in Asia and Europe, they would have been coexisting with animals such as the Eurasian cougar, Eurasian jaguar. That's another animal that many people are not familiar with. Well, probably haven't heard of the Eurasian cougar either, but you also had jaguars over in different parts of Europe and Asia. And then mysteriously, they became specifically marooned in southern North America, as well as the more tropical areas of South America, which is odd considering the two species are quite closely related. Let's see, when it comes to gray wolves, I mean, they've since the Pleistocene had a very vast range. You can find them as far south as different areas of the Arabian Peninsula, even today. And back in the Ice Age, they also existed over in different areas of northern Africa. Actually, even recently, over in the different Atlas Mountains, where you could find brown bears back in the 1880s. So let's head over to the ground sloth. So, from Sci News, paleontologists find 3.58 million year old ground sloth fossil. I wonder what species this is. Paleontologists in Argentina have discovered what they say is one of the oldest known fossils of the ground sloth Megatherium. So, this is one of the largest ground sloths to exist. Now, it does depend on the species of Megatherium, but these animals could reach well over 7.5 tons, or yeah, technically over 8 tons, and probably reach a height of over 15 feet in some instances, or nearly 5 meters. And they existed in different areas of Peru, Ecuador, Brazil, as well as, I believe, Uruguay and Paraguay down in South America during the Pleistocene over 2 million years ago. They were quite a successful lineage of ground sloths. And um, it does look like there is evidence for ground sloths such as Megatherium to not only have fed on different species of leafy plants or different species of trees in Ice Age South America, but as well occasionally even scavenging from dead camels, horses, possibly even mastodons in the area. So, because you even had it where there were certain species of mastodon existing back in Ice Age South America. He seems to be, I'm not sure if he's up in the trees or he just ripped apart a smaller tree.
I think you just ripped apart a tree.
Yeah, when it came to full grown Megatherium, unless it was very sick, they really weren't very concerned with the saber toothed cats or even the bears in the region. Probably just other ground sloths, or if they happen to um, come into contact with any healthy mastodons in the region. Further north, with certain individuals, they might have to deal with Columbian mammoths over in Mexico. So, Megatherium is an extinct genus of ground sloth that lived in South America from the early Pliocene epoch, 5 million years ago, through the end of the Pliocene epoch, over 11,700 years ago. But it is best known for the elephant sized Megatherium americanum, most famous or more well renowned species of giant ground sloth. Either else, people will call them just Sid. Sometimes called the
It's a big Sid.
um yeah, I believe Sid though is supposed to be he's supposed to be Megalonyx. Sometimes called the giant ground sloth, native to Argentina, Uruguay, and Bolivia during the Pleistocene. It was up to 10 times the size of living sloths, reaching weights of up to 4 tons. They could become much larger, but um, only 10 times. The biggest sloth today is only about 20 pounds, or a little over 8 kilograms. That would only make the sloth about 200 pounds or so. Or a little over what, 90, 95 kilograms?
And this one was how big?
That's small even for the Ice Age. Yeah, so we're talking about at least an 8,000 pound or what, 3,500 pound individual?
So 200 times the size?
I mean, 3,500 kilogram. Is that it?
I was just
Yeah, I think it's yeah, much larger. He was able to stand and walk on its hind legs, and making it the largest bipedal mammal of all time. It did? Ground sloths are usually reconstructed as walking on all fours, as being quadrupedal. I It's not that it necessarily isn't possible for it to have moved on 2 legs, but very, um, very short distance.
There
Like,
weren't there dinosaurs that were larger than that?
no, well, I mean, there were when it came to the bipedal, theropods, but they were specifically designed to walk on just 2 legs,
Yeah, but it
whereas
says bipedal largest of all time.
mammal.
Oh, I didn't catch that. I just
Um
thought you said animal.
Yeah, that's very off. Giant ground sloths, when you look at their overall anatomy, are not meant for walking on. Well, they are meant for walking on the sides of their feet, or you could more specifically say large toes, but not strictly bipedally. Let's see. So Megatherium overlapped with humans in time as their fossils have been found with cut marks on them, suggesting that these creatures were on the menu thousands of years ago. Footprints attributed to Megatherium americanum dating to around 14,000 years old have been found in Argentina. It is interesting with the giant ground sloths because it doesn't just occur over in South America. This also occurs in different areas of North America where at the very end of the ice age apparently there's just a wide range of different giant ground sloth specimens that have been discovered. And this just doesn't also refer to Megatherium and other species of its genus itself. This also refers to a wide variety of different sloth genre. There have been a wide range, like over um, 120 different species of giant ground sloth have been discovered. These animals live mostly in groups, but they may have lived singly in caves. It's very possible you could have had it where mothers with their young would have seek shelter in caves,
I've never heard that stated that way. Singly and
singly,
singly.
like singularly.
S
Um,
Alone? By themselves? Solitary? What? Singly? Is that even a word?
I'm trying to think. But usually ground sloths tend to be um, re- reconstructed as solitary, or maybe there's a handful of other individuals, or it's like uh, a mother with her youngster.
I've never heard that word before. Huh.
They probably had mainly a browsing diet in open habitats, but they also probably fed on other moderate to soft, tough food. Okay, so it's mentioning that it's trying to get at the point that sloths were feeding on different species of trees. They were probably also feeding on different species of fruit. There even have been suggestions that their long claws and strong forelimbs may have allowed them to hunt other animals. The problem is, giant ground sloths were extremely slow. So unless it was going after something close to its size or larger, which to me is a bit unlikely. Let's see. So this seems to be the bottom jaw of a Megatherium. Oh, is this it? Oh, so the 3.5 million year old skull of Megatherium from the San Eduardo del Mar locality, Argentina. Well, that's a good looking bottom jaw. So Megatherium remains are very common in almost the entire Argentine territory. However, it is the first time that the remains of such high quality or high antiquity have been found, which is only comparable to a find made a few years ago in Bolivia. Oh, I forget. Well, Bolivia is in the midst of, I believe, Paraguay and Peru and Brazil, said Dr. Nicolas Chimento from the Museo Argentino de Ciencias Naturales. A lot of things come
Jeez.
from here. Um, it's not just these prehistoric mammals, but even when it comes to different species of Cretaceous dinosaurs as well. Actually, possibly even Triassic and Jurassic species of dinosaurs as well, like different species of sauropodomorphs. So the different species of long-necked sauropods, as well as their ancestors, the prosauropods, and different species of carnivorous theropod dinosaurs as well. But we're getting different giant ground sloths here too. And I'm going to guess even different species of saber-toothed cats like Smilodon populator and even the large short-faced bear in the region, the Arctotherium. So, let's see. Bernardino Rivadavio Conicat and his colleagues from the Museo Municipal Punta Hermango Miramar, Universidad Maimonides, CICYTTP Conicat, and Psych PBA UNMDP.
Jeez.
Hmm. I wonder who specifically. Okay, so it's another museum and another university, and whoever these other organizations are. I just haven't heard of them before. The new partial skull of a megatherium was discovered at the locality of San Eduardo del Mar in Argentina's Buenos Aires province. So the paleontologist found that the fossil belonged to a juvenile and is at least 3.58 million years old. That's an old Megatherium americanum.
I thought they weren't that old.
I wonder if I mixed him up with Aramatherium on time. Because Megatherium is a very, it was a very successful genus of giant ground sloth. Many tend to associate giant ground sloths as only existing in the Pleistocene. They go back to the Miocene epoch over 20 million years ago. In fact, it does seem that a wide range of different early species of ground sloth would have efficiently swim.
Even with as slow as they move?
Well, we're also referring to ground sloths that were maybe 2 to 300 pounds, or a little over 100 to 150 kilograms. This constitutes the first undoubted record of Megatherium from the Pliocene of Argentina and one of the oldest records for the genus. This finding blurs previous biogeographical proposals sustaining that the genus originated in the high Andes and later dispersed to the lowlands. That is very interesting how you had the different species of, in some cases, not necessarily large ground sloth, but maybe still weighing, around 100 pounds or so, or a little over 40, 45 kilograms, and being able to sustain themselves in quite arid regions. In some instances, very um, high altitudes as well, like especially the high Andes. So you're talking about over, areas that are reaching, 15,000 feet above sea level, or what would that equate to? Somewhere around I'd say 3,500 meters above sea level. So on the contrary, present finding, together with the record of coeval Megatherium species in the Pleistocene of the Argentine Pampas, suggests a more complex paleobiogeographical scenario and indicates that the diversity of lowland Pliocene Megatherians is still underrepresented. Bet it is, especially with this instance. It's just, a lot more attention is put into ground sloths that are either occurring much earlier in time during the Miocene epoch or are existing in the Ice Age or during the Pleistocene, which they're all fun. But the Pliocene, I'd say it's that epoch that in many cases doesn't get a lot of attention, despite it being in the middle, situated between the Miocene and the Pleistocene. So, let's see what else is occurring here. Oh, yeah, it also does seem that it's very possible that Megatherium might have even had a long, mobile tongue like the different species of anteater today, but probably a bit closer to giraffes. Though I guess it's a bit of a question as to what specific color its tongue would have been, considering giraffes to be more of like a uh, what, blue purplish mix.
Isn't that what the okapi is?
Yeah, the okapi, it's a bit darker, I believe, than the other species of giraffe in Africa. So, Also, there have been different reconstructions, at least lately, where it's been showing Megatherium as having an almost furless body. A bit freaky to look at because you're just used to seeing them covered in fur. And then you see this, very wide stomach behemoth walking around and it has very little fur, probably like the Columbian mammoth, which does make sense considering the very warm and mild sort of ecosystem that it lived in.
Maybe people drawing it or saying what it looks like, just like the hairless cat.
Well, I mean, also, especially for back then, it would take a lot more time to put in the extra fur texture. So that would make sense. Actually, it is very interesting. I wonder how old this specific drawing is, considering it is showing an elongated tongue, very wide tongue, which would make sense considering the Megatherium, giant ground sloths in general. They don't exactly have small skulls, but they're not huge compared to their body size.
And the nose looks like a tapir.
Oh yeah, it does. I wouldn't say it appeared. It almost looks well, to an extent. Let's just say you shrunk the trunk, but a bit more like the Saiga antelope over in Kazakhstan, Mongolia, certain parts of southern Russia, and actually, maybe you could even say China. Or what is it? There's a species of antelope over in the Tibetan Plateau of China or the Himalayas of southern China, northeastern Pakistan, as well as northern India. It's just not hitting me. It has a somewhat similar type of nose structure. I honestly think that the Walking with two was it 2000 um, series of Walking with Beasts reconstruction is very good. I'm not sure though if he's missing a oh, maybe he's supposed to be like a two-toed
No, but his
Megatherium.
tongue looks very short.
Yeah, it could be a bit longer. It's probably because he realized he can't reach anything in this instance. Also, yeah, this is back when Macrauchenia, a species of macrauchinid during the Ice Age, was depicted as having a long trunk, and it looks like it would have had more of like a moose-like nose structure. Which is interesting considering it seems to be today they're a bit more closely related to rhinos than they are species of giraffes or even moose. It also
Wait.
looks
Who?
oh the Macrauchenia in the corner over here.
Oh, I can't even see that.
Okay,
What is it?
okay. Let's look up a picture. So basically, it's a species of large herbivore from Uruguay during the Pleistocene. So let's see, Macrauchenia. Wait, um,
That can't be right.
I think it's Racenia.
Is it Macrauchen? Jesus.
Oh, could be. It's one of those tricky genus mammal names. Cenozoic mammals. Seems to be that macrauchenids might have been somewhat grazers and possibly even going over to certain wetlands and feeding on different species of wetland plants. But they might have also have been browsers as well.
Okay, totally different looks.
This is a bit of the closer look to the overall skull structure that we are seeing on a lot more recent reconstructions of the macrauchenids. I also believe a new species of macrauchenid has been discovered recently, possibly around the same size of Macrauchenia, if not dwarfing the genus. And no, these are not closely related to today's camels.
Hold on. Um,
Which did reach, South America at certain points, because you also have the, guanacos, vicuñas of today, as well as the llamas and alpaca. So this is the Walking with Beasts version, which I mean, I really like this overall model, but it's just when it comes to paleo accuracy, it's a bit off. I like these too. I think they look really good. Um, keeping the nose issue out of the way, maybe a little more muscle to their neck because also a bit like a moose, they have a very muscular neck structure.
But then it's putting this as it. This can't be right.
Hmm.
That that doesn't even look like the other one. That looks like a cross between a zebra, a horse, and a donkey.
Yeah, it does. It could be representing another mammal. It's just not hitting me. Unless it's another species or genus of macrochinid, because the hands or the feet seem to be somewhat on par with it. They didn't exactly had hooves. It was a bit more of like a parasadactyl, like a rhino, with the three toes at the front. Oh, this is a bit more accurate. Some cases you could say it almost has like certain sauropod like characteristics. I don't know, something about that specific short but slightly long muscular neck and the overall skull structure. Almost like somebody took a Camarasaurus and shrunk the neck structure, maybe elongated the face a bit, and that's pretty much it. But you could possibly use certain types of diplodocids for the skull structure.
What's the ceratopsy that's got that funny nose?
Ionosaurus, or are you talking about the specific one where it has a horn that points downwards towards the ground?
Oh, the one that just has the bump on his nose. It's not a horn.
Pachyrhinosaurus.
Okay,
Um,
that's what I was thinking when I'm looking at him.
you could say it has that's type of a shape. Definitely not that type of a structure. It was just a somewhat inflated region. But yeah, very also long legs compared to its body size. Um, I'd say with older reconstructions of macrocenids, they had shorter legs and also much thinner as well. Tail's definitely more pronounced here, despite it not being huge. What's another thing? I'd say that the overall stomach area, depending on the model, I guess, is a bit smaller with certain reconstructions. Okay. Straight. Probably this is probably one of Smilodon's major food sources. So the saber-toothed cat down in South America. Macrocenids could also probably reach a little over a ton, so pushing 22 to 2,500 pounds or a little over 1,100 kilograms. Okay, so let's head over to the other mammoth discovery. So this is a bit more recent. So from Sci News, new genomic research sheds more light on evolutionary history of mammoths. I'm guessing it's also referring to specifically the woolly mammoth. Scientists have extracted and analyzed 34 new mammoth or mammothus. I'm guessing primogenous mitochondrial genomes, including two early Pleistocene and nine middle Pleistocene mammoth specimens from Siberia and North America. They have identified the oldest known mammoth DNA in North America from a 200,000-year-old specimen found in the Old Crow River, Yukon Territory in Canada, so over in the northwestern part of the country, adjacent to Alaska.
Well, that's a lot younger than
The sloth specimen that was discovered.
Yep.
And we also, yeah, are referring to DNA as well. But this is really good to see. The results confirm previous research showing that mammoths from around a million years ago do not closely resemble later mammoths. Oh, well, that's definitely happened with a wide variety of species.
Didn't that
Now,
happen with people?
sort of. They changed a lot during those periods of time. But I mean, what, 200,000 years ago or a million years ago? I mean, I don't focus on anthropology, but Neanderthals, sapiens, a wide range of hominids, denisovans did exist 200,000 years ago. But when it came to a million years ago, I can't go there. No idea. Ancient. Oh, okay. So life reconstruction. Well, supposedly this is okay. Mammothus troglodyte. So this is a steppe mammoth. Ancient DNA recovered from specimens dated to the early Pleistocene, around 2.6 million to 780,000 years ago, and Middle Pleistocene, somewhere between 780,000 to 126,000 years ago. Stages has the potential to allow the direct study of the deep time evolutionary events that are key to understanding species formation. I say that's a really good picture. Unfortunately, access to such deep time DNA is limited, and so far, only a handful of studies have been able to obtain either genome wide data or complete mitochondrial genomes from deep time specimens, or mitogenomes. Also, just mentioning when it comes to moose, which did coexist with woolly mammoths in different areas, but it also wasn't just this specific species of moose, Alcis alcis of today. You also had Alcis latrifons and another species of Alcis with completely different antler structures. They were also taller as well. Um, but the modern day moose seems to have first evolved somewhere between 150,000 to 200,000 years ago. And it did already exist prior, like going as far back somewhere between 400 to 500,000 years ago. Still not quite as early as reindeer or caribou. They've been around for a long time, over 800,000 years. And it doesn't seem to have changed too much. I mean, you could say somewhat considering they had to adapt to the massive wet mossy tundra that would occur and even different boreal forests from like the previous mammoth steppe. Now, technically, there was already boreal forest. It just wasn't to the extent of today's taiga. Boreal forest taiga. There, you could say there are different segments, but it tends to refer to the same region. Where was it getting at with moose? I think I just thought I mentioned that for the moment.
I always forget, what is the taiga?
Essentially, the massive Christmas tree forest.
How massive?
It covers vast expanses of Canada, as well as you could even say certain areas of New England, Washington State, even to certain areas of Oregon, Alaska, over in vast areas, most of Russia. You could even say northern China, bits of Mongolia, and into northern Europe. Not Greenland. Greenland is completely treeless. If there are any trees on Greenland, they were relocated there.
Why is it that it always appears Russia's barren?
There are certain areas of Russia, especially Siberia, that are just tundra, which is also where you see those semi-domesticated reindeer in different areas. Is due to those specific areas of tundra. Same thing for Mongolia. Many people tend to view Mongolia as being nothing but an endless desert, and there are certain greener areas. But yes, it's a very small portion of the country. You also had moose in a wide variety of different areas of the northern hemisphere back in the Ice Age. So they also probably did have to watch out for cave lions, cougars, wolves at the time, different species of bears. Um, hmm, I was thinking of something else. So, okay, our analyses provide an unprecedented glimpse into how major deep time demographic events might have shaped the genetic diversity of mammoths through time. So, Dr. J. Um, Camilo Chakunduk, a researcher at Stockholm University, by analyzing 34 new mammoth mitogenomes alongside over 200 previously published mammoth mitogenomes. The researchers were able to find what diversification events across mammoth lineages seem to coincide with well described demographic changes during the early and middle Pleistocene. I'm guessing what it's referring to as different demographic changes is the different um, just the overall looks of their DNA structures. So you're seeing different types of populations of mammoths, or at least genetics, occurring across like all these millions, or this specific million years. Or I guess you could say 800,000, because it looks to have stopped, at least when it comes to this study, around 200,000 years ago. Their findings support an ancient Siberian origin for major mammoth lineages and reveal how shifts in population dynamics might have contributed to the expansion and contraction of distinct genetic clades. With the ever decreasing costs of sequencing technologies, mitogenomes have been somewhat forgotten. How- However, our study shows that they remain crucial for evolutionary biology since they are more abundant than nuclear DNA. Said Dr. Jessica A. Thomas Torp, Thorpe, a researcher at the Wellcome Sanger Genome Institute. The current study not only advances our understanding of mammoth evolution, but also contributes to the broader field of ancient DNA research. The scientists developed and applied an approved molecular clock dating framework, refining how genetic data can be used to estimate the ages of specimens beyond the radiocarbon dating limit. Um, no, I was just thinking of also like the different cave lion specimens, as well as like young gray wolf pups that have been discovered recently over in Siberia. But I think this was also from the Yukon Territory specifically. So you would have had cave lions and gray wolves in this area of North America back in the Ice Age during certain glacial events. Let's see. Um, This methodological advancement offers a powerful tool for future research on extinct and endangered species. These results add to our earlier work where we reported million-year-old genomes for the first time, said Professor Love Talen, researcher at Stockholm University. He was on the last one. I'm very excited that now we have genetic data from many more mammoth specimens sampled across the last million years, which helps us understand how mammoth diversity has changed through time. Well, also, when it comes to these specific specimens, these woolly mammoth specimens, too, I'm wondering how much of these specific individuals we discovered. Was it simply just small bits that were found on like a certain fragmented specimen, or is this one of those better preserved mummies? Now, I think on the last article, the mammoth one, not the sloth, it mentioned that they were getting the DNA from tusks or different teeth. Which, even I mean, if that's the case, that's really good to see. I mean, that's fascinating to hear. I'm guessing what I'm imagining is more of like what was the fat content of these individuals, like their what was their overall musculature. So I'm looking into probably, or searching for data that it's probably impossible to find, at least for these individuals, considering the DNA is probably coming in just simply from bones. Okay, well, let's see. Is there anything else we? No, not no more marsupials for today. Okay, well, thanks for joining, and we will see you Wednesday. And from prehistoric to present, my name is Ethan. This is Creature Guy Live Daily News, and we're stumbling on. That is what I said. Streaming on YouTube, Kick, and Rumble. What?
And X.
Oh, and X. Right. And remember that nothing's better than all animals all the time.